Welcome to 10,000 Women, 10,000 Stages. Empowering women like you to amplify your voice, your message, your movement. We believe that if 10,000 new women stepped into high-level leadership platforms, we can transform the industries across the planet. 10,000 Women, 10,000 Stages. And now your host, Nerissa Street.
Hey ya, hi ya, ho ya. This is Nerissa Street. Again, you are with us for 10,000 Women, 10,000 Stages, where we help you amplify your voice to make the change and the impact you want to in your life and in your community. I am so excited to have with us today the incomparable Michelle Hollinger. How are you?
Hey, I am great. So glad to be here with you.
I'm happy to have you. So, tell us, who are you?
Wow, awesome question. Who am I?
Yeah.
I am, okay, so the thing that I'm always telling other folks is you're a spiritual being having a spiritual experience in this human body. So that's definitely what I am, because I believe that at my core. And the way that I'm showing up is being informed by my divinity. I take it so seriously. Sometimes I think I take it too seriously.
Never.
And that's usually the refrain that I get from inside. You can't take this too seriously, you know. And so I am a student of truth. I am living my life from the inside out. I am really rediscovering who I am. You know, I moved to New Jersey in 2019. Moved back to New Jersey in 2019. Full circle moment. And I've just been on a path of rediscovering me, getting to know me. I was married for 26 years, got a divorce, and so there was some unpacking to do around that to get back to me. And so I am a brilliant, creative, loving, totally awesome expression of God. And the older I get, the easier it is for me to own that.
Ooh.
And so I am allowing God to guide my steps and to reveal to me exactly what I am going to do. I write books based on my own personal experience. Mm-hmm. I'm now involved with coaching some young women and helping them to discover some things about themselves, to help them to see just how awesome they are right now. Because I'm like, girl, if you can get it in your 20s,
right?
Woo, Mike, I know you have to, you know, have some experiences, but what you have in your toolkit makes a difference when you navigate these experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm having a really good time in this space.
This is beautiful. So we're definitely going to get into toolkit as we continue this interview. So you are amazing things, which is why I wanted to make sure to bring you to my audience. So you're doing some really incredible work right now. And as you talked about, you're involved with coaching some women, but you have something called, I believe it's the Worthiness Institute. Is that accurate?
The Institute for Worthy Living.
Thank you.
Yes.
Let's make sure we get that right. I wrote it down and then I looked up from my piece of paper. So that was my bad.
That's okay.
So say it again. The Institute for Worthy Living. Is that correct?
The Institute for Worthy Living. Yes.
Beautiful. So what brought you to being the head of the Institute for Worthy Living?
So let me share with you my title is. I love what my title is. My title is President and Chief Worthiness Officer, CWO.
Lovely.
Yes. You know what? And it's really a culmination of every single professional and personal path that I've been. I'm a social worker. I'm a sociologist. And I have a very, very healthy obsession with worthiness based on personal experience. And once I discovered how powerful the shift is from that, living from that illusion, I call it an illusion because that's what it is, it's not real, that illusion of unworthiness, to reconnecting to our innate worth, that worth that we're born with, that journey is so powerful and life-changing that Spirit just helped me to see that there's a lot of work that I get to do in that arena. When I discovered a few years ago that I was dealing with unworthiness, I was like, what you talking about, God? I am college educated.
Mm.
Things I just described, brilliant, creative. I've been on this spiritual journey for a really long time, so I understand the power of forgiveness. I understand what a game changer gratitude is. I know how powerful my thoughts are. So how could I be dealing with worthiness? And when you ask the universe a question, the universe answers. And
Yes,
so
it does.
when I asked, well, how could I be dealing with unworthiness? It let me see that, yeah, you've done all this work, but there were some other steps that you didn't take. So we know how powerful denials are, and we know how powerful affirmations are, but they work really beautifully together, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I had done a really good job of denying like the impact that some of my childhood experiences had on me, right? But the affirming part I hadn't done such a good job of that. And so there were some remnants of unworthiness that were still kind of poking up and informing how I was moving through my life, how I was making decisions. You know, that my ability to manifest at the level that I wanted to manifest. I was bumping into roadblocks and different obstacles without really being able to identify what they were, right? And then I was in a consultation with a business consultant years ago, and she called me on my tendency to undercharge for products and services, right?
So say that again. The tendency to undercharge for your services.
Yes. Because God would give me these beautiful ideas, right? And I would go into that process, and I would, allow spirit to shape them out, and I would add my nuance to them, and they would be beautiful. And then I would slap these little paltry prices on there without really understanding why. And it was definitely a pattern. And then she respected me and loved me enough to ask me, Michelle, what's up with the low prices? Yeah. And I was like, well, see, what had happened was, because I didn't really have an explanation. I didn't know what the deal was. I just knew that that's what felt right every time I did it, right? And
so, okay, wait. So there's so much that you're giving us all kinds of nuggets. And my job as the host of this is to help people unpack it. So
yes,
we're going to go back to something, and then we're going to just keep going. And don't worry, audience. We're going to get her to the end of the story. Don't worry. So number one, you keep saying it. You said it several times. Please define what worthiness is. Let's start from there. And then we're going to go into the low prices and everything else. So tell us what worthiness is, because I think there's a little thought on that.
Oh, yeah. Worthiness is this space of consciousness within us. We're born with it. Everybody is born worthy. Everybody's born worthy, right?
What does worthy mean?
Worthy means we know what we bring to the table. We know that we deserve the best in life. We know that it is our birthright to be prosperous and healthy and happy and joyous and aligned with what spirit wants us to express in our lives. When you are in that space of worthiness, you know that none of that is doubtful for you. None of that is doubtful. You're not questioning why you're here. You're not questioning who you are and what you're here to accomplish. Worthiness is that state of consciousness inside of you that has everything about who you came here to be, right? That's what worthiness is, in my estimation. What worthiness is this total package of your goodness, of your brilliance, of your juiciness, of everything that's delicious about you. But when you're operating from a space of unworthiness, you deny all of that about yourself. You try to minimize it so that the way you show up in other people's spaces feels okay to them. They make you feel like shit, but it shows up okay in a way that makes other folk feel safe. That makes other folk feel okay around you, right?
So worthiness is this space of, as a sense in your own being of your rights to be in a place and your right to be fully and joyfully and 100% authentically fully who you are.
I love the way you say that.
Okay, I just want
perfect.
I want people to get this. This is so important. I want people to get this.
Yes.
So connect that now to undercharging your clients. Let's go with that.
We make assumptions, right? When we have products and services that we bring to market, we make assumptions based on where we are with that sense of worthiness, right? If I'm not believing that I have the right to show up fully in this space, if I'm operating under that imposter syndrome, that's questioning my gifts and talents, right? I'm assuming that everybody else is too.
Ooh.
And so I want to offer some prices that help to kind of navigate that space so that everybody's good with me playing small, right? That's where that comes from. That's where that comes from. And when you step into that space of your worthiness, and you know, first of all, that it's not you, it's you surrendering to the divine. When you surrender to the divine and the divine shows up fully through you, right? The divine shows you the right price. The divine shows you, how to make sure that the value of this beautiful product is reflected in the price that you put on it. And all of that starts to align in a way that you don't second guess, a price of $100 where you're going to put maybe 25 or 30 bucks on it. You don't second guess that.
Mm-hmm.
You understand that, okay, this is in alignment with first of all, with the quality of what Spirit poured through me. This is in alignment with that, right? And so there are people who are going to align with that $100. There's some folk who will align with that $25, but are you really being authentically, who you are when you're putting $25 on a product or service that's really valued at $100?
And can you also detach yourself with who you think that product is for?
You know what? That's a key part of it. Because when we try to define it, okay, so there are two parts of that, because we need to have our target audience, right? We need to know who we're talking to, right? But then we also have to recognize that there are people of like minds and like energy that are naturally drawn to what we're putting out, and that's our tribe.
Right.
That's our tribe. When we try to define, first of all, what's in people's pockets and what their level of prosperity consciousness is, then, we might miss the mark every single time. We might miss the mark. And I believe that when we're operating from our worth consciousness, right? First of all, our focus is on the quality of our product or service.
Right.
Okay? We make sure that is of the highest quality possible. And then when we continue to operate from that worth consciousness, the price and the experience that we have by engaging our target audience is still at that level. We're not cheapening the process at all. We're not allowing that illusion of unworthiness to flow into that dynamic. And I am revealing some stuff to you, right, to myself rather, as I'm saying this out loud, which is freaking awesome.
Yes, ma'am. That's my job.
Which is so, girl, you are good. Which is so freaking awesome,
Yeah.
So the whole thing is like, it's such a beautiful journey, and again, at the time when she challenged me that day, she challenged me, first of all, it didn't feel like a challenge. It felt like love showed up in my face to say, listen, girl, I know you have so much more to offer. And I refuse to sit back and allow you to undercharge for that anymore.
Yes.
It is not just about the price that you're willing to put on it, right? It's the thought process behind that I want to interrupt.
Yes.
And she loved me and respected me enough to do that. And so when I got off the phone with her, we had a really lovely conversation after she challenged me, and she fed me. She said some wonderful things to me, and I was able to, just get really naked with her, be vulnerable and explain where I thought it came from. But I knew as soon as I got off that phone, you know what? I'm going to shut things down for a few days. I am going into the silence. I am going to pray and meditate about this. I need to figure this out.
Right.
Because it's been a pattern for a really long time. And I finally got attracted someone into my space because I wasn't ready for it. I attracted someone into my space who helped me to hold up a mirror to see what was really happening. And so to sit with myself for those few days and just to ask the universe, ask God, ask Source, what's up with the low prices? Why am I doing this? And to have it revealed to me, it was an emotional process. It was so cathartic. It was powerful. It was challenging for me in that space because I knew I had a choice to make. It's one thing to have the experience and to become, aware of it. But then moving forward, you have to decide, okay, am I going to go back to what's safe and comfortable, or am I going to step into this new space of power that was just revealed to me?
So hold on now. We're going to break this down. First, I wanted the audience to hear comfort, power, right? That sometimes those are two separate spaces. Let's put that in. Let's put that as stick pin. We're going to come back to that. Moving back to, because this is a thing that I think a lot of people who want to have their own breakthroughs in the work that they're here to do. So my audience are people who have some sort of mission, have some sort of message, and are making the decision. How is it that I'm going to step powerfully into the world? You kind of glossed over it, but I want to give them some tools. Going back to the toolkit. You had some spiritual practices in place, right? Before you took those days off and sat in the silence. Talk about those spiritual practices that you had already had in place so that you were ready to say, okay, you know what, God, let's have this out. Let's talk about it. What were some spiritual practices that you already had in place before this lovely coach showed up and shifted you?
One of the most powerful tools that I had in place was the use of denials and affirmations. And I began to use them more effectively.
Okay, my audience may not be new thought. So let's break down what denials and affirmations are. So audience, I'll add a link to a really amazing book, H. Emily Cady's Lessons of Truth. And that's something, it's a PDF. You'll be able to take it and dig into denials and affirmations. But for those who may be listening to this on the road, let's break down what denials and affirmations are, please.
So denials are statements of truth that relinquish situations, memories, thoughts, and their hold on me. Right? So denials help us not to put our head in the sand and to say, you know, like we might sometimes do a new thought that has no power over me whatsoever. Right? So a denial helps us to step into that space of knowing, right, that this situation, this person, whatever the situation is, that it really has no power over us by affirming it, by saying, I'm blanking on a powerful affirmation right now.
I'll give you a couple. So we've got, let's say that there's an issue where you look at your bank account and your bank account is not showing you what you needed to show you for that light bill that just hit your door, right? And so the thing is, when you're doing some spiritual work, you don't ignore the light bill, right? And you don't ignore the bank account, but you are denying that what the appearance is in front of you is you're denying that appearance is actually going to is the truth of what the situation is. So the appearance of your bank account, okay, this bank account is not the truth of who provide. This bank account does not provide for me. Okay, and so you know that the bank account is a zero or negative, but you know that the bank account does not provide for you. What that does is that shifts your mind from focusing on this bank account and moves it to the possibility, you know, that your divinity provides for you. So the possibility is there's something else. So that's where you hear people talk about, well, gosh, you know, I had this zero bank account and then this check came in the mail, or I got a phone call from someone and they said, I had you on my mind. I'm going to cash app you $50. You know, so the denial is just saying, is reminding you of where the truth of the matter is. No matter what the appearance is still the appearance. Your bank account is still on zero. Your bank account is still in the negative, but it is not the source. It is not the truth of what maintains. You have to pay that light bill. You don't ignore the light bill either. Absolutely. You know, you call FP&L or Con Ed or whoever it is, and you say, hey, you know what? Can you give me like another day or so while I try to fix some things out? And then, you know, you open yourself up. But yeah, the denials are really about fixing your mind. Absolutely. So that you're open to things. But yeah, oh my God. So she had the denials. What's the other thing you
Right.
had in place, please?
Right. So the denials are really, really powerful, but the universe abhors a vacuum. And so we have to put something in its place. And so that's where the affirmations come in. And so we deny that bank account, is the truth of my situation. Right. And so now I'm affirming that I am prosperous. I have what I need to pay this light bill. I know that source is providing everything I need in this moment to take care of all of my needs. So the use of denials and affirmations for me in that space was really, really instrumental because, again, I had gotten to a place where I was able to forgive different things that happened in childhood and deny that they had any power over me. But I had left off the affirmation part of it. So I began to affirm, I am worthy. I am prosperous. I am healthy and strong. That affirmations took on a whole new life for me as I made that shift to understanding that it was my illusion of unworthiness that had me undercharging for these products and services. Another really, really powerful experience was going back to some of my favorite books. Because we have these books on our shelves, right?
Right.
And sometimes we read them and they just kind of go all over your head because maybe you're not at that level of consciousness to really absorb them yet. So I went back to some of my favorite books. Eric Butterworth is my man. I went back to Eric Butterworth's Discover the Power Within. I went back to Spiritual Economics. I went back to Celebrate Your Life. I went back to Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life. And I saw some of those books with fresh eyes. It was like, this was in there before? How come I didn't recognize this before? And so I was reading those books from a different level of consciousness, and it was like I was a new student, eager to allow these truths to land in the space that opened up within me because I was now willing and eager to release this hold that unworthiness had on me. And the thing that kept coming up in meditation was, I am worthy. I am worthy. That was the most emotional part of it because there was this part of me that I wasn't really cognizant of any self-talk surrounding unworthiness.
Right.
I wasn't cognizant of that. But the energy of unworthiness was floating up through my thoughts. They say we think 60,000 thoughts a day, and 80% of those bad. The energy of unworthiness was floating up into my thoughts without me really being aware of it. And so affirming that I am worthy, I am worthy, I am worthy. It became this mantra for me, this deep experience that allowed me just to start to unpeel and get back to the truth of who I am.
So having the denials and affirmations was a practice before. I also heard you had some forgiveness so that you'd been practicing. So these are things I want the audience to get. These are things that are practices, not just something to do when you feel it comes up, but it's something that you put into your routines. Like these are routines, these are habits to have in place so that when something comes up that you need to address, you already have a relationship with your soul, so you can recognize your soul's voice, right? So let's move into, so these are some great things. So we have the practice of denials and affirmations. You had done some gratitude work, and these were things that were a routine. So when your soul was coming to you and saying, hey, this is worthiness, and your soul was revealing these things to you in that silent time, you were able to recognize them and then move through and look at what has occurred from that. So
Absolutely.
Some questions I have for you, because my audience are people who are making a decision to take a big step and take a big risk. How does a lack of worthiness show up in public?
It's an illusion, first of all, an illusion of unworthiness. I want to always remind folk, we don't lack worthiness.
Thank you. How does an illusion of unworthiness? Thank you. Appreciate that.
It shows up in you making decisions to minimize your presence on the planet. It shows up in you going to that job that you hate and justifying it because it pays the bills, affords a certain lifestyle, provides benefits. but it's denying your ability to express your unique gifts and talents. Okay, so unworthiness convinces you that because it checks all these other boxes, never mind that you're not showing up, with your unique gifts and talents. That those can't come in. Unworthiness has you lulled into the sense of complacency as it relates to those kinds of decisions. It has you shrinking in spaces where you're supposed to be fully occupying space. It has you tolerating relationships that don't serve you and that you're not serving. Toxic relationships. It has you doing this dance with fear that never really allows you to like really understand the hold that it has on you. It's just this give and take that just kind of keeps you treading water. You never really get a really good understanding of how to navigate fear. You hear that saying, feel the fear and do it anyway. And that's so counterproductive because the energy behind fear is stagnating and negative. And when we take fear into any situation, our results are going to have fear all over, right? And so they're not going to manifest at the level that they're capable of manifesting.
So talk about, like, I want us to get, like, what does that show up as? So I want us to get from the theory into, like, I want people to see it. How is it that fear shows up? You say it shows up all over the relationships or shows up all over the things. What does that look like? Be specific. How's it show? Fear shows up, it looks like this.
Fear shows up by you waking up every Monday morning, hating that job that you're going to.
Great. Perfect.
But you continue to go. And you talk yourself into believing that that's all you're capable of. You're capable of so much more. That's how fear shows up that way. Fear shows up in you remaining in a relationship because you've been in it for a really long time. And everybody around you, is preoccupied with quantity instead of quality. And you buy into it because you want to make sure everybody remains cool with you, right? So you make those kinds of decisions from this illusion of unworthiness. Everybody else's opinion about how you're running your life, about how you're living your life, has greater sway to it than your own. We celebrate folk when they step out of their comfort zone and when they do something that screams authenticity, right? When a woman leaves a marriage, and steps into this different space, or when somebody's been in a job for a really long time and it from the outside looking in is super, super successful, and they leave to go start a bakery or to go open a pet shop or do something else that's in alignment with what they're here to do. We celebrate that. But for some reason, we feel this disconnect from it as it relates to how we're moving through life. We get to do that too. But when you're under the illusion of unworthiness, you are convinced that you can't. It's for everybody else.
And this is the other thing too. We also, as you're saying that, like we celebrate it for other people, but not for ourselves. But also, sometimes when people in our circle get those inklings, like, oh well, I feel like this may not be the relationship for me. But like, girl, he's a good person for you. You should stay. And so that having that space of also seeing how our conversations with other people may be contributing to them not listening to, and here's what I hear, not listening to their intuition.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So got a couple of questions, and we may have to do a part 2 because there's so many questions that we're doing here, but we're going to start here. So a lot of times when we're doing some speaking in public, right? And this is something that I've come to for myself, but I want my audience to come to it as well. There is a push for you to be authentic and transparent in public. How does worthiness and a sense of worthiness help you determine what to share publicly and what not to share publicly?
Wow, that's powerful. That's powerful. So one of the things that immediately comes to mind is a talk that my pastor gives frequently. Pastor Yolanda Batts at Celebration Spiritual Center. And her primary source for a course that she teaches called 50 Days to Fearless Living is A Course in Miracles. Mm-hmm. In A Course in Miracles, it says that we are invulnerable. We can't be hurt, harmed, or destroyed by anything by anything really, right? But especially by anything outside of us.
Right. And
when you know that your safety comes from your divinity, right? And when Source brings up something for you to share in a certain space, you're supposed to share it. You're supposed to share it. There's a part of knowing what to share that includes surrendering. When you go on that stage, if you go on that stage by yourself, or you think you're by yourself, you're going to be in your head. You're going to be trying to figure out, okay, should I say this? Should I not say that? How are they going to receive this?
Yes.
You surrender. First of all, Source sees what you're bringing to the table, and Source sees who your audience is. Source knows what needs to be exchanged in that dynamic. When you do that surrender first, you step into that space. A lot of times when you do that surrender, when the talk is over, you might not even remember some of the stuff you said. That's how you know you surrendered.
Yes.
That's how you know you surrender. So surrendering, that's the primary step. Knowing that you're invulnerable, knowing that anything that you present that day, it was supposed to be presented. A part of why you experienced it was not just for your own personal growth. It was for you to share. Girl, you're about to make me cry. It was for you to share with somebody else who it was going to resonate with, and because you delivered it to them, because you shared it, and there was this space of authenticity, they were able to hear it. That may not have been the first time they heard it. They may have heard it from somebody else before, but because you got there and you surrendered, and you were in that kind of space with them, they heard it that day, and you helped change somebody else's life.
Yes. And behind that also is being surrendered in the process of preparing for the talk, and then continuing to surrender. Because sometimes you go up with the talk, you got your pieces of paper, you like, I'm going to drop some knowledge in them today.
You know?
I'm going to do it. And then you're like,
right?
All right, listen here, y'all.
Absolutely.
And so I think that's the thing as well, like where you have a space. And this is the thing that I talk about with my clients. So I do public speaking teaching and coaching. And I talk to them and they say, okay, well, what's good to share and what's good not to share and everything. I said, well, if you're sharing from a place of power, or if you're sharing from a place of people pleasing, like there's two things, right? And if you are up on stage and you feel led to share it, just lean right into it. But it's this thing where, again, and I think somewhere on the opposite of worthiness, and I do feel like we're going to have to do a part 2 on this. Somewhere on the opposite of worthiness is the ego, right? And one of the conversations we have in the classes is that the ego minimizes as well as maximizes, right? And so your ego sometimes wants you to stay small. And so it might push you to share something before you're ready to share it, just because the way that people will then now respond to you, the energy that then comes around you is an energy that will minimize you, that will encourage you to go back into your shell. So I love the conversation about being surrendered. And then in that surrender is also you're surrendering your sense of who you think you are to stepping into what you walked into this interview with, which is like, I am a dope expression of the divine and I'm just living my divinity. And so whatever that means, how I show up, that's how I show up.
Yes.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
I love that you mentioned ego. I love that you mentioned ego, because ego That's his job. Ego wants us to stay small because to the ego, safe and familiar means staying small. But the ego is trainable. The ego is trainable. We can shift the ego so that it's no longer an adversary and it becomes an ally. We have to know that bad boy exists first, and we have to speak to it. Have some conversations with that ego.
Yes, girl. Yes, girl. So we're gonna stick a pin right here, y'all. We're gonna do a part 2.
Oh, we have to.
I have a whole list of conversations. I thought this was an interview, y'all. This was like a sister gathering, and she didn't mention it at all. But she had the organization called the Sisterhood. So apparently, what God was saying is this needed to be like a sister gathering. So we're gonna do a part 2 where we discuss a little bit more about worthiness and you being on stage in front of an audience, because you got to carry one in order to be able to move the other. So, yay! Awesome. So we'll be back.
Thank you for tuning in to 10,000 Women, 10,000 Stages. Share this episode with someone who needs it. Find us at 10,000women10,000stages.com.